Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we are opening up our visual notebook to explore a truly profound concept, the power of the vital few, which you might also know as 80-20 mastery. The core idea here is incredibly simple, but I promise you, it is completely paradigm shifting. It's all about stripping away the complex, noisy 80% of your life to find the vital 20% that actually drives your results. And look, it's not just a business hack, it's practically a fundamental law of nature. Okay, let's dive right into this mind map journey. We'll be hitting 5 key areas today. First, the core 80-20 principle itself. Then, business and strategy mastery. Next up, time and personal freedom. After that, wealth, happiness, and success. And finally, how this applies to changing the world. Let's get to it. Starting things off with Section 1, the core 80-20 principle. So, the universe, it's really not as balanced as we like to think. The 80-20 principle basically asserts that a tiny minority of causes leads to the vast majority of your results. Take a look at this data. A study of 300 movies found that a microscopic 1.3% of the films pulled in 80% of all the box office revenues. That means the other 98.7% of movies were basically left fighting over the remaining scraps. It's crazy, but effort simply does not equal reward in a straight line. Now, you can approach this mathematically with hard data, or you can do it intuitively with what we call 80-20 thinking. The author actually proved how well this works by snagging a first-class degree at Oxford. How? Well, he didn't study everything. He realized that 80% of the exam could be answered using knowledge from just 20% of the subjects. By mastering that vital 20%, he achieved maximum results with, honestly, a fraction of the conventional effort. And this brilliantly illustrates how this principle has operated almost like an underground cult, driving massive technological leaps. Back in 1963, IBM discovered something wild. 80% of a computer's time was spent executing just 20% of its operating code. So they rewrote the software to make that specific 20% highly accessible. The result was dramatically faster machines that literally revolutionized the entire industry. Moving right along to Section 2, business and strategy mastery. You know, treating all customers equally, it's actually a massive trap. Take Electronic Instruments, Inc. as a perfect example. An analysis revealed their top 25% of customers generated a staggering 88% of their profits. But here's the kicker. They were suffering an 18% loss on their bottom 39% of clients. Servicing the bottom was literally bankrupting the success of the top. Complexity has these huge hidden costs, which brings us to the 55 principle. Essentially, this is the act of eliminating the bottom 50% of products or activities that only contribute a tiny 5% to your revenues. Why? Because they are secretly eating up all your capacity. According, Clant did exactly this, slashing their bottom 50% of products, which only brought in a mere 3.7% of revenues, and it completely freed up their engineering teams. Now, what's really interesting here is how your marketing has to adapt to this reality. There was a company selling car wax to car washes that realized 80% of its sales came from just 20% of its retail sites. So they made a bold move. They dumped the underperforming single proprietor locations entirely. Instead, they focused their extraordinary efforts solely on the lucrative professional chains, which massively boosted their efficiency and profits. And this ruthless focus applies everywhere, from project management to inventory control. Filofax, for instance, discovered they were carrying massive, confusing inventory overheads on things like exotic leather skins and niche birdwatching inserts that rarely ever sold. By finally axing those slow-moving variants, they drastically reduced costs and just cleared up a ton of retailer confusion. At the end of the day, progress requires you to ruthlessly shift resources from low-value to high-value uses. An investment bank was actually advised to slash an underperforming executive's bonus all the way down to absolute zero. Why? Just so they could properly reward the vital 2 employees who were generating over 50% of the bank's entire revenue. You really have to feed your winners and starve your losers. All right, that brings us to Section 3, time and personal freedom. Okay, get ready for a massive paradigm shift here. You are not lacking time. The data actually shows that a staggering 80% of our achievement and our happiness happens in just 20% of our time. This proves that we aren't short of hours in the day. We are simply misallocating our focus onto that low-value 80%. That's exactly why traditional time management fails. It just tries to squeeze more tasks into the exact same day. A true time revolution requires abandoning the low-value 80% entirely. Think about Victorian Prime Minister William Gladstone. He achieved incredible political success not by doing more, but through a highly self-directed, maybe even slightly eccentric schedule of extensive reading and resting. He protected his vital 20% fiercely. Let's see how this builds into your career. Look, success and wealth come so much easier when you focus your career on what you naturally enjoy. Acting and politics, for instance, are surprisingly adjacent. Leaders like Ronald Reagan and Winston Churchill leveraged their core crossover talents, like communication and performance, into absolute political dominance. They just doubled down on their natural, vital few skills. Next up is Section 4, Wealth, Happiness, and Success. So anthropologists have this village theory stating humans actually have a very limited number of relational slots in our brains. You need to stop spreading yourself thin because a massive 80% of your social value and joy comes from just 20% of your friends. There was even a rehabilitation project for young women that failed precisely because the women had already exhausted their capacity for deep connections through early traumatic experiences. You have to protect your relationship slots. And to win in our modern winner-takes-all society, you absolutely shouldn't be grinding 24/7. General von Manstein had this brilliant concept: be intelligent and lazy. Now, that doesn't mean do nothing. It means avoiding irrelevant work entirely and specializing in a tiny, high-yield niche that offers the highest strategic value. When it comes to money, the compounding nature of investment naturally follows this exact 80-20 curve. A few investments will always vastly outperform the rest. Take private investor Ann Scheiber. After World War II, she put $5,000 into a vital few blue-chip stocks and simply let time do its thing. By 1995, that $5,000 was $22 million. Absolutely wild. So the really crucial point here is that happiness is a choice that can be engineered. You need to identify your happiness islands, those rare moments that bring you the absolute most joy, and actively expand them. Adopting deliberate daily habits like seeking out mental stimulation or just doing a random good turn doesn't just feel nice. It literally, chemically blocks negative feelings in your brain and multiplies your joy. And finally, we arrive at Section 5, Changing the World. The 80-20 principle actually has incredible moral force. It can solve massive societal problems like crime and education. For example, New York City Police Commissioner William Bratton didn't try to solve every single crime all at once. He targeted just the 20% of offenses, things like public drinking, that were causing 80% of a neighborhood's decline. Focusing intensely on those vital few levers slashed homicides by a staggering 65%. So I want to leave you with this. Look at your own daily routine. What 80% of trivial noise do you need to ruthlessly cut from your life today to uncover your own vital few?